My name is Ed Schlesinger. I'm the Benjamin T. Rome Dean of the Whiting School of Engineering, and it is a pleasure to welcome you all to the 2023 Blumenthal Lecture and Award presentation. I'm honored today to welcome our speaker and honoree, Batu Aksoy, as well as our students, faculty, staff, alumni, and guests. We're proud to be part of this lecture and award, which was so generously established through a gift from the Blumenthal family to recognize individuals for their contributions to management in technology. The lecture provides another platform for students to gain knowledge beyond classroom learning. Having industry leaders such as Batu speak with students, faculty, and alumni of the Whiting School offers a wonderful opportunity for us to learn and be inspired. And all of this would not be possible without the generosity and vision of Sydney and Mitzi Blumenthal. The late Sydney Blumenthal was a 1937 graduate of Johns Hopkins in electrical engineering. After graduation, he joined Blumenthal Con Electric, a contracting company established by his father in Baltimore, and for 50 years, Sydney ran Blumenthal Con. One of the reasons the business was so successful was that Sydney was able to keep pace with changes in the industry and with the other aspects of running a company. Sydney felt strongly that Hopkins engineering students could benefit from more exposure to concepts of entrepreneurship, business, management, law, and other practical considerations that they would need after graduation. I think Sydney would have agreed, and you will see, that Batu's experiences and leadership abilities will be of interest and benefit to you all. In creating this award and lecture, the Blumenthal family wanted to honor individuals whose ingenuity and skills had led to great distinction in their fields, but they also wanted to offer undergraduates new perspectives to provide a snapshot of the concepts, ideas, and challenges that will arise in the course of their future careers. Hopkins faculty worked to seed these ideas in the courses and academic experiences offered here, but this series, which is now an annual centerpiece for the Whiting School, provides a chance to hear firsthand from people innovating at the interface of technology and business. While Sydney and Mitzi are no longer with us, this lecture and award serves as a tremendous legacy of Sydney's foresight about the skills necessary for success today. And that legacy is being graciously carried forth by Mitzi's son, Gordon. While they are unable to join us today, we are happy that Gordon and his wife, Joanne Prager, can participate virtually and carry on Mitzi and Sydney's legacy. Gordon and Joanne, thank you for your support and for being with us today. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Batu Aksoy. Batu is the CEO and Vice Chairman of Aksoy Holding, a position he has held since 2010. He came to Aksoy Holding in 1999 after beginning his career in the US in the communications sector. Aksoy Holding is based in Turkey and owns a number of subsidiaries in the fuel retail, power generation, hospitality, real estate, and international trade industries. Leading subsidiaries of Aksoy Holding, at which Batu holds the position of either the chairman, vice chairman, or member of the board, are Aksoy Ventures, Energy and Tourism, Turkish Petrol, Shell and Turkish Petrol, RWE and Turkish Power Generation, Conrad Istanbul Bosphorus Hotel, the Ritz-Carlton Residences, Bodrum and Aksoy International Trading. Batu is also the honorary consul of the Republic of Chile in Istanbul, a member of the High Advisory Board of Turkonfed, the Turkish Enterprise and Business Confederation, a board member of the Turkish US Business Council and Turkish Chile Business Council of DEIC, the Foreign Economic Relations Board of Turkey, and a member of the Turkish Industry and Business Association. He's been busy since he graduated from Johns Hopkins University in 1998 with a bachelor's degree in electrical and computer engineering, and is a current member of the Whiting School's advisory board. We are thrilled to have Batu here with us today to deliver today's lecture in a fireside chat format. Batu, please join me at the front table, and please join me in welcoming Batu. So it's wonderful to have you here with us.
Thank you.
And I have a few questions for you. And so I think one of the first things that might be of interest to our students especially is how people come to Johns Hopkins University to study engineering. And what was your journey that brought you here?
Thank you, Ed. Before answering the question, I would like to thank the whole Johns Hopkins University, all the faculty members, the Blumenthal family, my colleagues here, we've been friends and colleagues for many years, Dean Ed Schlesinger, Megan, Kimberly, Yvonne, and for having me here today. It's a really honor and privilege for me to be here today in front of the valuable Hopkins staff, Hopkins students and staff and faculty. And I'm really touched with this recognition of the Blumenthal 23 Award, recognition for contribution to business and technology. Coming to the question, my story, my journey here at Hopkins, I kind of always wanted to be an engineer, even when I was maybe at the age of 7 or 8, and even maybe electrical engineering was in my mindset, maybe because my father is also an electrical engineer, so that kind of put in me the notion, and I was not bad with mathematics. I was much better in mathematics than I was in anything else, and in fixing stuff, whether it's electrical or mechanical, so I kind of had it in me to be an electrical engineer. And the high school that I went to, and the school I went to in Istanbul, Turkey, had a lot of American influence and education in the system, so I kind of missioned it to myself to apply and to get accepted to a high-ranked American institution, a university. So I found in myself the courage to apply into Johns Hopkins. And exactly 29 years ago today, this month, in April of '94, I received this acceptance, and since that's how the journey started.
Very nice, very interesting. Do you remember something about your Johns Hopkins education that stands out in your mind, something special?
It does. I mean, especially the first time I came to Johns Hopkins for orientation, again, like 29 years ago, that was September of, or late August of '94. What really intrigued me and what I realized in a matter of days was the diversity and the inclusion in the system, within the system. And I made so many friends, both from within and also from outside of the United States, that they deeply enriched me till date. And I have learned a lot from the system here. And there are differences in culture from where I have been raised in Turkey, which is kind of, on one side it's on the tip of Europe, on the other side it is in Asia. And so, we have different family cultures and customs, etc. So here one learns better how to step as a teenager, as a young person, to be able to step on your own foot. And that was a very important thing for me. But the diversity and inclusion helped me quickly understand the climate, the environment, and the international experience. For me, I mean, academics and education is extremely important, but that diversity and that international know-how of interacting people, in this case more so with American society, was the key instrument to me. Coming to the academics and the education itself, I think that the level of education and the faculty within Johns Hopkins is at such a high level of excellence that the environment is pretty competitive, and I don't think we can deny that, whether it is you're a student or whatever, and it was a very competitive environment. And I honestly had to work really hard to survive or do well in my classes, and achieve the average, at least GPA that I put into myself as a target. And that working hard concept, I think kind of got in me, and I think it's like a lifestyle, and I think it is something that I will be taking on with me to be able to compete and to be able to survive in competitive environments. It's something I want to keep on for the rest of my life, but that journey also started here at Hopkins.
I think our students will agree with you that it's still challenging environment to be a student here. So with that, let's turn our attention to what you did after Hopkins, but maybe we could start with a little background on the founding of your company.
Sure.
And how did it get going? And
Sure. Basically, our company is established in 1978 by my father. I'm a second generation family operator, as it's officially called. Mm-hmm. And so we're a family operated investment company based out of Turkey, and with businesses currently all in Turkey, but I'll tell you a little about that too. We have, as Ed mentioned, we have subsidiaries in 5 different industries: retail, power, hospitality, real estate, etc. And we are at the top of the company, at the holdco level. It is myself as a CEO, but my father as a founding chairman, and my sister as an executive board member. Why I'm saying this? Because we're like a trio. And one of the challenges in the business world is family unity. And I think the biggest instruments to have successful family businesses, the most important thing, I think, before anything, is unity of the family. And I find that to be the biggest strength of us as a family, that we always, the trio, we never take decisions against each other, but we always try to either convince each other or be convinced, or just don't do it. So we're like a trio that always tries to balance and support each other, whether it is for business, risk, reward, family, or even personal. We see ourselves as like an inseparable piece, and I think this is one of our important elements. Coming on the professional side, this is at the holdco level, but we have companies that are all operated, corporately governed companies, well established, independent, robust, and in joint ventures with global oil and or energy or hospitality companies of the world. So in that department, I think merit is the other strength of our group. So we only work with people with merit, and that unity and merit are our biggest strength. Coming to the story of the company, it was like many other entrepreneurial stories. This started with the ambitions of an entrepreneurial spirit. That is my father, some 50 plus years ago. And he was well educated, but he was also a very humble and modest person, coming from a family not with businesses or anything, but also an okay family in terms of well-being. But he was well educated, and he had studied electrical engineering back at the Istanbul Technical University, one of the good universities. And he always wanted to be an entrepreneur, despite the fact that he was also an engineer. But I think he used that problem-solving skills that was in his veins, basically, that also got very strong with the engineering education he got, into turning certain ideas into enterprises. So he started a business of just operating one gas station, mm-hmm. and that turned out to be okay. But then he wanted to grow that business, but he wanted to do something innovative. Opening up a second gas station on the ground could be an idea, but it would be no different than anybody else's ideas. So he thought of doing something innovative, and you might think, what innovation can you do with a gas station? And so he basically opened up a gas station on the water, and on the Bosphorus in Istanbul. Istanbul is the Bosphorus. We have a Bosphorus that connects Asia and Europe, and we're the only city in the world that connects 2 continents, that has 2 continents within itself. So he opened up a gas station, got the permits for it, to fuel the fish tanks, so the fisher boats. And it became, nobody had thought of it before. And it became so successful. And he was the Mobil Oil, he was an oil dealer for Mobil Oil Turkey, which is today what is ExxonMobil. And so he became the largest selling Mobil Oil dealer in Turkey, with 2 gas stations, one on the ground, one on the sea. And the Mobil people said, oh, we like this guy, and he speaks English, which was rare at the time, back in the 70s. And so let's do something else with him. So they said, we want to give you another gas station or something. But he said, no, I don't want any gas stations. I want to transport your products from one location to a. But he said, you don't have ships. They said, you give me a contract and I'll bring the ship. So basically, we got into shipping from there on, and we got a contract. Through that contract, he leveraged that through financing a ship, bought a small ship that started carrying products for the Mobil Oil company. And then that one ship became 2 and 5 and 14 and 15. And then like by the early 80s, he was the largest ship owner in Turkey, paying the highest taxes within the country. So from there on, the company grew into diversification into oil business, and which was adjacent to the shipping of the oil products, and then got into other fields in Turkey. Those are real estate and hospitality. The diversification, I think, is key in our story, because especially emerging markets like Turkey, which is very volatile, almost always volatile markets. You have big, V-shaped recoveries, but you go down, you go up. So it's a country where no single business always does well. So you always have to spread around the eggs, and that's, I think, what we have been doing. Also, even in the course of the last 25 years. So basically, we grew a lot with mergers and acquisitions, and in the old times, private equity deals used to be called leverage buyout, LBOs. So this is kind of our story. And today, the group, some of the important subsidiaries, for example, our fuel retail business, that one gas station today is a joint venture with the Shell oil company in Turkey. We operate a network of 1,200 Shell branded gas stations, basically the market leading company in Turkey with 22% market share. And we are also in power generation, hospitality, and real estate. So basically that is the story. But the story never ends, and it needs to always get better. So this idea of continuous improvement and sustainability is very important. So last year, I took a decision for globalization, and for us, we're just at the beginning. My father's 80, and he also plans the next 50 years. And so it's all about always achieving something, continuous achievement. It's not about the money, it's not about but it's about the success. It's about putting certain things on top of each other. And so now we decided to invest out of Turkey, take a leap out of Turkey, because it's also important, the geographic diversification. So we started an investment program within the United States. So some 8 months ago, we started this program, and to be involved in a business that we are more accustomed to, that's real estate and hospitality. So focusing on Florida, where the United States has a lot of internal migration. We've been engaged in different class real estate and hospitality businesses, and I'm very excited about that too. Basically, our aim is to mirror what we did in Turkey, hopefully in the United States, this way diversifying geographies and industries along the world. And that's my next new ambition. Hopefully in 5 years' time, we'll get to somewhere.
Okay, we'll invite you back, and you'll tell us
exactly
how it worked out in Florida.
I hope well.
So you mentioned that a key is the fact that this is a family business. It's yourself and your sister, along with your father. How would you describe the difference between a sort of first generation entrepreneur and the second generation that comes along afterwards?
I think I can look at this from 3 perspectives, just to summarize from my perspective. The first one would be from risk perspective. I think from risk perspective, first generations are always more embraced to taking risks, because they can almost do anything to achieve their goals and their visions. And that's understandable, because they come from nowhere in terms of business. While I think second generation is usually more focused on preservation, take more conservative approaches. So this is my general opinion. When you look at our specific case, that trio that I mentioned, my father, on the risk spectrum, he's the biggest risk taker for sure. My sister, on the other hand, she is the most risk-averse person you can see on earth. And I see myself in the middle, trying to balance the system, and also trying to take calculated risks, because without the risks, no matter where you are in the world, and I don't think no reward will come. But I think it's all about trying to be able to calculate those risks. And in order to do that calculation, you need to have good teams, good people with merit, and good judgment of business experience also helps. But I think I'm focused on taking these calculated risks and execution. And from management perspective, I can also say that as a second generation family operator, I am a more collaborative oriented delegative person, and I do believe in systems and procedures, while sometimes the first generation might care less about the system. Those are details, you deal with it and stuff like that. But I think this is important, and if you ask me, as Batu, what I put into the system within the course of the last 20 years, and that I would say corporate governance, much, much more so than it used to be. I will never be the entrepreneur my father was, probably, but I believe that a belief in corporate governance, systems, people, merit, procedures, as much as principles, is, I think, what second generation family operators also focus on. And the third could be maybe I can mention on the succession planning. As I said, I think again, succession planning is an area where I personally believe the second generation puts more emphasis on, because they know they should. Grooming the future generations is an important subject, instead of just thinking, what the hell with it, we'll deal with it when it happens, is not our approach. So I personally like more of a structured transition, whether it is establishing trust to systems, board governance, rules, and the company, certain guidelines. So these are, I think, from my perspective, some of the important differences.
You mentioned that your father started with, in some sense, a joint venture with Mobil, and you're now doing a joint venture in Florida.
Yes.
So how do you do the change management, the knowledge transfer, the adaptation when you're doing a joint venture partnership? How do you deal with all of that?
Thank you. I think it all starts with, in business, it all starts with financial sustainability and growth. And when you think of financial sustainability and growth, you need scale, you need competitiveness, and you need corporate governance systems. Now, in order to achieve that competitiveness and scale and resourcefulness, you need partners. You need partners, because you can't do everything on your own, especially if you want to grow and if you want to create a sustainable system. So I think in that moment comes the mergers and acquisitions, hence partnerships. And in order to create partnerships, I think the most important issue is ability to compromise. Mm-hmm. A partnership, a marriage is also a compromise, a partnership, and it requires compromises as well. So it's all about finding the common ground, common areas, but also the compromises. So ability to compromise from control in business, compromise from operatorship is very important. But then you need to know what you bring and what others bring into the picture. And I think the other ingredient is respect. So if you know what you know well and what you don't know so well, or what others can do better than you, and respecting others' way of doing business and learning from it, I think these are very important in order to create these partnerships. And this is, I think, our cultural ingredient, because in almost all our businesses, we have partners. So, for example, our joint venture with Shell Oil Company, it is a unique joint venture in the world, actually, from the perspective of a $300 billion company owning a joint venture in a country with a small family. I mean, so it is unique from that perspective. It took us 5 years to negotiate the deal, and it could have been terminated any time throughout that 5-year period, but we knew that their systems, it's an elephant, are procedural, long, and it can take a lot of time to reach a deal, but you have to show patience, and patience is a virtue, and you have to respect their systems. We did respect, and eventually, today we're celebrating 17th year of partnerships. Now today, that partnership owns 30% of a market-leading company in Turkey. If we never merged with them, we could have been owning 100% of a smaller company, which could have probably been swallowed by the bigger fish in the market some 10 years ago. I don't know at what price, because there's fierce competition in the market, there's tight margins, and there is heavily regulated environment in that business especially, and worldwide, not just in Turkey. So, I think that enabled us to stay or maintain a position at the top of the market. Instead of being a small fish, we chose to be a small part of the big fish so that the big fish doesn't eat us, basically. That was the thing. And likewise, for example, in our joint venture with the European utility, RWE, 50 billion euro company, we built an 800 megawatt power plant. And today we own 30% of that. You might ask, instead of owning 30% of that, we could maybe own 100% of a 240 megawatt power plant. It would cost the same thing. But theoretically and commercially, a 240 megawatt power plant can never compete with an 800 megawatt power plant because of the technical efficiency and the scale that comes along with it. So yes, it would maybe make sense and it would give us control, but probably in 10 years' time, it would have been obsolete, like many of the technologies we see today. So I think that gave us at least 20 years of competitiveness in the market, and that's important. So, but even in the businesses that we don't necessarily we're not a minority, let's say, even in businesses that we are a full owner or a majority controller, we do prefer to partner with top-notch companies. That's, for example, in our real estate and hospitality business, we are partnering with the Hilton Group, with the Conrad brand for 35 years now. We know that, yes, we do own the building, but we know that they can operate that asset better than we can because they have 13,000 hotels operated worldwide. So nobody can compete with that massive scale in operating a hotel. I could write my name on the hotel, but it would make 1/3 the revenue that we make today. So paying some fees for their operatorship and getting their brand is nothing compared to the big picture gain. Likewise, in the real estate business, we signed up with Marriott a 30-year license agreement for that Ritz-Carlton brand, and that helped us improve the sales volumes by at least 40-50%, just because of the brand, importance of the brand, which does play a more important role in our part of the world compared to here. And they charge you like 5-6% or whatever percent royalty license fees, but that's okay because this is a win-win situation. So these kinds of partnerships, but whether these kinds or any kind of partnerships, I think should all be about mutual value.
Interesting. I noticed that your electrical engineering background helps you evaluate
I do think so,
business opportunities, at least in electric power.
Yeah.
As we've been speaking a lot about joint ventures and partnerships, inevitably there are challenges with a joint venture partner. So can you speak a little bit about what are the challenges and how do you overcome them?
Yeah, I think this is it, one of those things called governance structures. A big company versus a small company, they have so much procedures. They have, I don't know, 50,000 people working in the company, while we have 800 people working in the company. So even the systems and procedures change. So it's all about really learning from those systems and respecting what they can bring to the table. Eventually, what we try to do is try to create the best of both worlds. Let's say the systems and procedures, to the extent that they don't really slow you down in terms of achieving success in business. But I think this is one area. Another area is cultural fits. Sometimes even the way they are raised, the European culture, North European culture is even different than South European or Mid-European culture, and that is surely different than Turkish culture from many perspectives. But that's, I think, also, this is not working? Okay. That's also, I think, an area where there's, I think, coming to your first question, how the, education and the experience at Hopkins of this international experience helps you trying to, having a better communication skills in terms of doing business with these kinds of cultures. So in order to understand these cultural differences, or in order to be able to make a cultural fit, you need to understand the cultural differences. So I think open communication channels is very important. So I think that communication, effective communication, mutual respect, and focusing on the big picture and the solution rather than the problem are the key. So from here, I'd like to say that any kind of problem solving is the pillar in life, whether it is in business, personal, or family, and that I think this will help you in anywhere in life, whether it is the business or the personal or family. So I think it is mutual respect and these differences that helps us overcome any of these challenges.
So any advice on not even assuming compromise and goodwill and taking into account different cultures. Any advice on negotiation tactics and deal making?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that in negotiations, um, you should never focus on the short-term gains or one-off gains, but rather always focus on the long-term gains and ongoing, sustainable, mutually beneficial and win-win situations. I think this is the key. Short-term gains, yes, you might make profits from short-term gains, but it will never help you achieve long-term goals. I think another important thing in negotiations is that, yes, always, it's important to know your interest, but it's maybe even more important to know the interests, goals, motivations, and priorities of the counterparty. This way only you will be able to find those common areas, but also the areas of common ground, but also the areas of compromise. And when you know the counterparty's priorities, that will also help you achieve your priorities quicker than you normally would. So I think rather than focusing on your own interest, focusing on the interest of both parties is the key in negotiation and thinking long term.
We often tell our students that one of the values of being a student at Hopkins is that you're part of an alumni network, and that you can reach out to people, and you can have access to expertise and people around the world. Can you speak a little about your strategy in building that network and the importance of networking in your success in business?
Sure. I think I didn't have a chance to get a master's degree, so I immediately got into business. But I was so active in business, and one way of being active in business is memberships and volunteerships. So I always, from day one, whether it was in the first, especially 10, 15 years of my career, I was very much focused on the energy industry. Then I kind of diversified myself into real estate and hospitality industry. But whether it was the energy industry or later the real estate and hospitality industry and or general NGO world, I have always taken active memberships and volunteerships at the industry associations and non-governmental organizations. So I took roles, whether it was membership or a board membership or presidency of these associations. I think these helped me a lot in terms of learning, sharing experiences, creating a position in the industry. So I think this was an important key. And attending industry events and conferences, again, similar. And I think Hopkins also provides students a venue for that. So this kind of alumni events are also very important. In Turkey, for example, we have the Turkish Alumni Club. We did 2 events this year, and people and students and alumni are so happy to be a part of that. And these are also important networking ideas. So it can even start there and then go into industry involvements and engagements. So I would say that this has a significant impact in business, but also you should network with a purpose. And when I say that, I mean, don't do it for only your own benefit, but also do it for the industry, the wider society, and do it for the mutual benefit, not just your own benefits, because nobody is stupid. Everybody will know your intentions. So it's always be important to be very clear and to try to create these common goods and goals for the wider society. And I think that pays back in time significantly.
Undoubtedly, you had to recruit people for your businesses. That's a kind of partnership as well. But what sort of characteristics do you look for? What sort of criteria are you looking at when you're recruiting management and leadership for your company?
I mean, I think some of the important things is, I would say, this is sometimes more the intangible stuff than the tangible stuff. So for me, positivity, for us, being a positive person, solution-oriented approach, capacity and motivation to trigger other people. These kinds of soft issues are extremely important. Some of the other things, for example, the courage and ability to take risks and to stand behind them, whether it turns out to be successful or unsuccessful, I think is important. And also, the world has become a more difficult place to manage businesses anyways, and so ability to seize opportunities from challenges is, I think, extremely important. And another issue is, I think, effective delegation and empowerment and being a team member. And rather than knowledge on specific, issue, I would say that ability to learn and ability to learn fast is more important than anything else, because you might not necessarily know a field, but if you're a fast learner, you can probably manage a business in any industry and take a position anywhere. Having said that, expertise is also very important. So for people, for example, I tell a lot of people, you don't necessarily always have to be a C-level manager to be successful in life. You can easily be an expert and do something that nobody else can do, and you'll be the most valuable person in the company. They can dispose of the CEO, but they probably won't be able to dispose of you of because of the know-how you have. And so I think I also value this expertise. So when especially looking at new profiles, having people coming from different backgrounds, bringing new values to the organization is, I think, also extremely important, because otherwise you would have to pay so much money to actually bring those expertise, and it will never be the same as having someone from within. So these are the kinds of things that we kind of look at usually. And also people, this kind of complementariness is important, because when somebody from a large organization, for example, like Shell, comes to our organization, because these things also happen, they also add significant value, because the level of digitalization, the level of quality, the level of health, safety, environment, or environmental, social, and governance procedures are so much more advanced compared to family enterprises usually. So we also learn a lot from them. So we also use this as a, let's say, tactic to improve ourselves. Everything happens with people.
So my last question is, can you share any stories of or experiences of challenges, crises that you've faced, that you had to overcome, the lessons you might have learned?
Sure, thank you. I think for me, I love to work and I love what I do. And I think it's important whether you study something in college or you work as a business person, as a professional. I think it's so important that you love what you do. And I love what I do, to the extent that I don't want to call myself a workaholic, but I love to be a hard worker. But then this work-life balance is also an important, should be a priority and challenge in life. So that, I think, that is for me an important priority, but also a challenge. So work, work comes first after family is a priority for me. But then one should also know to switch off from time to time and give himself the time to think and understand other values in life. For me, it's family, it's being able to spend more time with my growing kids, trying to create memories, and so that I don't miss life on the other side while trying to do business. This is one thing. Another thing I like to do is I like to keep myself up to date to the extent possible by as much research and reading and involvement and engagement as I can with organizations that I'm not on a day-to-day involved, like business. So, doing business and coming here and all those NGOs, as I mentioned to you, to try to improve myself and keep myself up to date in terms of people's behavior, trends on technology. But it doesn't only have to be related to business, it can be related to arts, sports, and culture, whatever makes you happy, whatever makes you interested, whatever you are interested in life. Coming to a story, I can tell you one story. I and my sister, we were actually fortunate from the perspective of our father, the founding chairperson of our group, empowering us so much when at the early time of our engagement with the group. So I graduated from Hopkins when I was 20. I started working with him, like with my family, 22. And he gave us so much power that we thought we could do everything, but we didn't really want to. But I think that was very wise of him. The idea was to throw us in the ocean and see us make mistakes. And one day, it was the 2001, if you may be in Turkey, we had a huge economic crisis in 2001, banking crisis, volatility, currency crisis, this and everything came on top of each other, and then the government changed. And so we took a very wrong investment decision with my sister. And so of course we understood it, because at the end of the day, the government announced the devaluation of the Turkish lira. So that decision we took ended up being a very, very wrong decision that cost a lot of money. So we're like so demoralized. The next day we come to work and we're like, you don't even have the face to face it, and talk about it with our boss. And so he comes to the office and he looks at us, he says, "What's wrong with you?" And we said, "First of all, this is what happened. We're really sorry. We need to recover this. And you're watching the news. The economy is in a very bad situation right now." And he starts laughing. And I said, "Are you mocking with us? Why are you doing this? Is there a reason why you're laughing? Because there's nothing funny here." And he says, "If I paid, I was always hoping that God give me the chance to give my children a chance to make mistakes, and they can only learn best from their own mistakes. So, I'm really happy that this will teach you the lesson you need." So, okay, so we got the major lesson on greed. So from that day on, I never took risks that I don't need to, that I don't have to. This was, I think, the lesson number one. And then, okay, we started focusing on recovering the losses we made. And the government is announcing, treasury bill purchases at certain prices, so allowing people to recover from the crazy devaluation of the Turkish lira at the time. And we saw that the best solution was actually to buy treasury bills of the government and wait for 18 months. Okay, and then we say, okay, this is what we should do. And then me and my sister, we say, 18 months? That's never gonna pass. And to us, that's a big part of our life, 18 months at age 22. And then we realized that we were being taught a lesson about patience. And so we also learned that the hard way, and everything recovered. And we learned about patience and what a virtue it was. So nothing good comes by force, but it does come in time and with patience. So that was a major lesson learned for us. And I think whatever challenges you have in life, whether it is business or else, will come as opportunities or some kind of it will turn out to be a good opportunity for you for the future. So what doesn't kill you really gets you stronger. That's what we learned, at least in our usually volatile economic environment, but we keep on learning.
Very nice. I think we have just a little bit of time if maybe there are questions from the audience. Anyone would like to ask a question? Oh, yes. We have a microphone for you, so because the folks online should hear you. Go ahead.
So, as you know, the technology is improving very fast in today's world, and for big companies, it is usually hard to keep up with the speed of innovation. That's why usual startups come into play with their disruptive innovation and do better than those big companies. Since your company has subsidiaries in 5 different industries, I believe this is even harder for you. How are you keeping up with this change and implementing it in all those subsidiaries?
Yeah, I think the short answer to that question is by having really smart and good global partners. So because we can't do everything on our own, and we can't find the solutions, and we could have never managed a portfolio like that if we didn't have these kinds of partnerships, and if we didn't have independent subsidiaries. So they're independent, They're run by CEOs and CFOs and CLOs and management teams who are very smart, who are very merit. And they do come with solutions. And that's the one other thing, good thing about having global partners. When we're partnering with Hilton organization in a hotel, they know the best ways to protect the climate, to use less water, to use less power, energy within a building in the best possible way and be implemented through worldwide use schemes. In our gas station business, for example, everybody's talking about, yes, there's electrification. All the vehicles are getting, not all, in our part of the world, less, but still it's getting there. There's a trend. There's electrification. Vehicles are becoming electric vehicles. Are we going to go bust? Is our business going to go bankrupt because we are in the gas station business? Now, the answer is, depends on what we do about it. For example, Shell is one of the largest electric network companies in the world. They've been purchasing many. But in our company, for example, we just recently signed up with this Turkish power car producer an agreement to install DC power charging stations at 400 of our gas stations, 320 of which they invest, 880 of which we invest. We do a revenue sharing model. So we're trying to create a network with an electric system network within all of Turkey so that people can actually fuel their cars with power. But that's not enough. For example, we have started to do what is called a non-fuel retail. So Shell, for example, or we used to call our business fuel distribution business. In time, this business started to be called fuel retail, and guess what it's called right now? It's called just retail. Our part of the energy business, retail. It's not fuel. It's not about fuel. It's about retail. So in our gas stations, this year alone in 2023 in Turkey, 23 in Turkey, we're going to be selling 15 million coffee and 5 million sandwiches. And in all our advertisements in Turkey, we don't show pumps or gas or Shell logo. We show, kebabs and like sandwiches and, coffees. Starbucks in Turkey this year sold 80 million coffee. We sold 15. There's another company that's a coffee company, Kahve Dünyası. That's a big brand in Turkey. They sold something like 60. We're the third largest coffee company in Turkey right now. Nobody knows about it. That's okay. But this is, if we don't disrupt them, they will disrupt us. So we purchased a company that is doing all those beautiful sandwiches for us. It's called Deli to Go, and people are crazy about our sandwiches. And now, for example, we're thinking of, because Shell is among all the energy brands, Shell is the company that is closest to the final customer. I mean, ExxonMobil is actually bigger than Shell, but Shell is very close to the final customer, and it puts a lot of emphasis on B2C. So we're now thinking, for example, of can we open small retail shops totally independent from gas stations in a shopping mall, for example? Will the brand somehow, or will they be able to attract customers? So we're trying to find ways of disruption in order not to be disrupted. I mean, these are just some examples. So even in the real estate business, you might say, what can you do different? But if you build a residential compound, and by branding it at the 30-year agreement with a global company, we're basically buying in the management systems and sustainability systems, so that we're making sure that the homes of the people who buy homes from us, those value of those homes are not going to go down, but rather they're either always going to be the same or going to go up, because they're going to be maintained for sure. Even if we're not there, these managers are not there, there is always going to be capable people operating that facility and etc. So this is exactly how we're coping up with this, and continuously trying to improve ourselves in these kind of ideas, and of course many other elements as well, from digitalization to better operational systems, and even sometimes coming up with hybrid solutions. By that I mean, for example, you might have a gas station system, but you might operate it with the same logo, just like a hotel operatorship with the franchise system. So, you know, this way, trying to come up with the best of both worlds, use the best logo in the world with the most effective management system in the world. And this is basically what we do, try to do.
You have one more question.
Please.
First of all, thank you for your inspiring words. I have a question which is related to, let's say, the economics of your company. So in a situation as the one we are living right now with uncertainty in global financial markets, how do you hedge these risks?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think there are risks that we control and there are risks that we cannot control. So there are certain things that we can do to the ones that we don't control, but there are things we can for the ones that we can control. For example, I believe that currently in Turkey we have a bad fiscal policy, and that has not been helping us in terms of, you know, the volatility, the stability in the currency, fiscal stability, and hence the monies we would be making, the company would be making in dollar terms would actually be going down, even if we thought it was going up in Turkish lira. So in order for this to improve itself, the fiscal policy needs to be improved. And there's not much that I can do because it's a very political decision, this and that. But on the other hand, there are things we can do about this situation. And I'm hoping that we're doing that. And that was, okay, keep all our assets in Turkey, grow them to the extent possible with the available funding within the market, organically as much as possible. Try to maintain market position. Don't exit anything because you might lose money at this point if you do exit. So you know, it's not about exit, but grow outside of Turkey. Take a leap out of it. Don't try to be, you know, kind of caged in a relatively restrictive environment. So that's why, for example, we decided to invest now in the United States in the real estate and hospitality industries. We did our research. We looked at where the migration is happening, where the growth is happening. And so, you know, we took a systematic approach on it, put certain milestones on us. So it is diversification. The previous diversification we did was industrial diversification. Now this diversification is geographic diversification. And this is now the strategy for us at this point in time. Might change, might get revised, but we have to do something about it. The worst thing is to do nothing, I believe, especially in an environment like this. But this is how we do diversification. But diversification is also good to the point that you can manage it. So I'm also a big believer that focus brings success. So as you should diversify to the point that you don't lose focus in any of the industries. So I said we're active in 4 industries, but I could easily bundle oil and energy together as one industry, and real estate and hospitality can be bundled as another industry. So overall, we're actually in 2 different main industries. And I can actually, as a person, not just a person, but with our management teams, we believe we can deliver success in these kinds of focused, bundled industries. But if it was 10 or 8 doing things, trying to reinvent the wheel, we would probably be drowning and not succeeding. So I think diversification to the extent of not losing focus is also key.
So first of all, let's thank Batu for his comments. I hope you see, as I do, what an inspirational leader Batu is, who operates with ingenuity and integrity, and why, therefore, we are very proud to have him on our advisory board, why I benefit from his wise counsel, but why also he is deserving of this award that I would like to present him with.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, for your leadership in management of business and technology, I'm happy to present to you, on behalf of the Whiting School of Engineering and Johns Hopkins University, the 2023 Sydney and Mitzi Blumenthal Award.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I would like to thank the Blumenthal family for their support. And for those of you who are here physically, as opposed to those of you who are online, I welcome you all to join us for a reception in the lobby. Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let me put this on.